Welcome to the Spice of Life podcast, where we take bold risks, build real wealth, and use money as a tool for freedom and legacy. I'm Luke Spicer, and each week we uncover the principles of ownership, independence, to business and life. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or tradesperson, this show is about creating freedom today and legacy for tomorrow. Hey everybody, welcome to the Spicer Life podcast. Today on my show, I've got Andrew Icedale from his company, Andrew Icedale. We were just talking before we got online. Andrew, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we met on LinkedIn through a mutual friend of ours, and we were chatting about all things control and metal and
Yeah.
silver and gold and passports, and other countries came up, and we started chatting a little bit more. And I was like, man, my audience, my clients would probably love to hear from somebody like yourself. So give our audience a little bit of a rundown about what it is that you do and how you can help your clients.
So I travel the world to different countries all the time, always looking for new opportunities. It started as a kind of hobby, and then I was trying to figure out different solutions for myself, how to optimize my setup, but also in response to, well, on one hand, like response to having access to best opportunities for myself based on the idea that it's not necessary, not even advisable to have all the things. Sometimes people say all the flags in the same country because the best country to live might not be the best country to do banking, which might not be the best country for some other stuff, and so on. Nowadays, it's actually easier than ever to set it up this way. And it also gives you a lot of freedom. It protects you a lot from geopolitical situations, from political risk, and especially with the kind of things that have been going on in recent years. I was trying to figure out solutions for myself, and then it became something that I started offering as a business
Mhm.
based on my connections to help people set up offshore bank accounts, gold solutions related to gold, precious metals, with crypto, with relocation, getting residency permits, this kind of stuff. Uh, and basically, you can a lot of people are worried nowadays about all kinds of different things happening in the world, and with a lot of these things you can really bypass or make sure it doesn't really affect you.
Right. So, in your opinion, banking was a good one. What's one of the best countries right now for banking? Give me your like top three.
It depends. There is not really a clear answer. So one of the things that I will say is, first of all, you people should not have all of their money or most of their money, even significant amount, in a bank in general, and they should not have it in a single bank. So the idea that you just find one perfect bank in one perfect country, that's already kind of the wrong way of thinking. You should always have the mindset of diversification, and you should understand why you are using that bank account. Is it to make transfers? Is it to store money? So we start with that. Then it's very good idea to have bank accounts in other countries than where you live, where you are a citizen. Uh, so that your government cannot freeze it, so that you have some diversification politically and geographically. And here, if you're trying to open a bank account in another country where you don't live, especially as a non-resident, then it depends. Like if you are going to put a huge amount of money, like a high minimum deposit, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars and above, then there are quite a few options. But if you either don't have that kind of money or don't want to put that in a single bank, very good idea, by the way, then there's not so many options where you can do that as a non-resident. There's a few options then, and here Georgia is the best option in terms of stability, quality of banking, and the fact that they don't need any connection to the country and there's no minimal deposit. So for those kind of people, we would suggest Bank of Georgia.
Nice. Yeah, my my friend actually has business in El Salvador, and he helps clients with Bitcoin through El Salvador, so you can wire him money, and then he sends you back Bitcoin to your wallet. He also has a bank account there, obviously, to accept the wires and stuff. But it was neat because he was back in Canada, and he was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, it's really sweet. He's like, yeah, I got a bank card, and he was buying some meat at the farmer's market, and I was like, dude, does your debit card work here? Like I mean, it just seems. But he's like, yeah, of course, and I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, and so he just like goes over and like taps the card for the $25 or whatever, and bing goes through like instantaneous, right? It's like still
Yeah.
so fast, and and I was like, that's actually awesome because he's a pretty political guy, and so. That's what he said too, is he just wanted to get it set
Mm,
up so that he had other options in case anything was to happen to Canadian account. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, like
And
this
you have
is
a precedent with that thing in Canada, bank accounts being frozen. So it's
yeah,
not just hypothetical,
no,
especially
no,
in Canada.
it happened. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to
Yeah.
think that the company that has always been one of the ones known for the most like freedom and everything, it's just like all these things happen in the last few years here, and you're just like, how is this even possibility? And then there's certain people that'll say, oh, well, you're over exaggerating, and I'm like, no, I know people that it happened to. Craziness, you
The
know?
world is changing quickly. So, a lot of countries that were known for certain things, like privacy or freedom, are doing the opposite now, and countries that were the opposite of that in the past are coming up now. So, and it's changing quite quickly. So one needs to be up to date what's going on. But if I get back to this concept of using the card in another country, this is the whole point that nowadays it's kind of more easier to do things like this than ever. So on one hand, sometimes people are concerned with all the things going on in the world or in their countries, that they think like, oh, it's the worst it's ever been. But on the other hand, the possibilities of doing something like this, of completely being out of the system, actually nowadays it's easier than ever to pretty much live outside of the system while still using the system and not be affected by this. And with the bank account, if you have Visa, MasterCard, sometimes you even get Amex, then of course it works anywhere in the world where they accept those cards. You might have get charged for currency exchange, but for example, with the Georgian bank account, they give you four currencies as part of the account, which includes US dollars, euros, British pound. So there you don't have any currency exchange to worry about even. You can hold those currencies on that bank account.
So within that account, you can have four like sub accounts that have the currency within the account. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so kind of like that. So they use partner banks in those countries, but basically it's part of your account. And as I remember, the way it works on my account, if I spend money, I have just one payment card, and it's linked to the same card. So, well, actually, I have multiple, but that's not the point. If I spend with this card, it uses the correct currency if it's one of
Oh,
those
if you're
four.
if you're in if you're in America, it just uses USD and does the conversion
Yeah,
at
or
the
even
bank
you're
level.
not in America, you buy something online, and the seller wants US dollars, or they give you option and you select US dollars. Like this basically.
Hmm, that's cool, and that's in Georgia.
Yeah, that's from Georgia. This account.
Okay. And what's the minimum deposit for somebody for to open an account there?
Well, officially, there's no minimal deposit, but most banks include this one. You have to put something in to like activate the account, and it was something like a couple of dollars. Like
Oh,
it's
wow.
kind of like an administrative process. Just to activate it, and then you can use that money right away.
Okay. And now, if I'm a client of yours, I have to just work with you and you get the card sent to me, or I have to go to Georgia.
Okay, so there's a few ways you can do it. What I do mostly is like consulting and coaching services. So it's kind of a custom solution for you as an individual. So maybe you don't know what you should do in your situations. You don't want to spend hours researching it. You don't know what possibilities are out there. So this is the kind of service to find custom solution specifically for you and for your situation. And that can include uh, having an offshore bank account. And it could be that we decide it's in Georgia or somewhere else. And then we decide to do it. So there's a few ways to do it. You could go to Georgia yourself and open it yourself. Then I can instruct you how to do it so you don't miss anything, you don't have any nasty surprises. Uh, or I have a partner in Georgia who can do it for you remotely
Okay. And then
in
just
this
mail
example.
and then just mail the bank card like regular in Canada.
Exactly.
Dude,
Exactly.
that's wicked. Yeah, that's awesome.
Something very nice, by the way, about this bank account in Georgia. They gave me something that I've never seen before, and I think that a lot of people would appreciate. You can actually get a bank card without a name.
Oh,
So when you open, I'm not sure if you get that if you open remotely, but when I did it in person, they gave me the bank card right away. They just put one out of the drawer and they activated it for me on the spot. So of course it didn't have a name, and I applied for another one with the name because I wasn't sure if that was going to work, online, because online you have to put a name. But later I discovered it does work online, and then for name you put card holder, and it works.
oh, really?
Of course, like if somebody really wanted to, like if you do something illegal and the Interpol is looking for you, they could probably find out this is linked to Bank of Georgia, and then they would send them a warrant asking, whose bank account is this. But like in most situation, the seller doesn't need to know your identity, like the merchant, I mean, because it just says card holder on the card. So that's
Right.
that's an extra privacy, nice detail.
Yeah, that's super sweet. That's kind of cool. I mean, and these are the little things that, like, yes, I think this happens lots of times in any business, right? People they need a service or something, and they hear about something, they think it's neat, and they're like, "Oh, I never thought about that." Like even the audience that's listening, as
Yeah.
they think, "Oh, I'm going to start to do it," and then not we, well, I mean, I've been guilty of it in the past, but investing time and negating what your time's worth, like, so I'm going to sit around and research and do all this stuff for days and days and try to figure it all out where I could just hire somebody to help me with this
You would
service,
probably
right?
not figure this out if you try to do research or, look it up online, ask AI or something like that, because I've not seen this mentioned anywhere online. So for me, it was a surprise, but it's apparently a standard thing there. And, like if you don't work with someone who has hands-on experience, doing things like this, you wouldn't know that there's such possibility.
Right.
And of course, this is the kind of thing that can change in the future. Like they might change the way they issue the cards, so there's no guarantees. But it just shows there's a lot of little details you get. If you work with someone who's doing these things himself, who travels to these places and has done the process.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. And then so banking account is one part, and then you also help with passports and citizenships, correct?
Yes, to some extent. So, like passports, it's if you want a new citizenship, that's usually quite a involved process.
Yeah.
So for these things, of course, depending on the country, we would have partners in those countries. But in most cases, this is either like an involved process. You have to live somewhere for a while. Maybe you have to marry someone. You have to learn the language, perhaps a lot of things to get a second citizenship. There's a few countries where you can get it by basically donating certain amount of money, and that's usually on the order of like starting from 100,000 bucks and above. So this is not like a small amount of money, but there are possibilities like this. But something that's much easier and much more affordable is a second residency permit, and that gives you already options. Usually, people think a residency permit is something, like if you want to live there, and that you have to live there to have the residency permit. This is true for most countries, but there's a few countries where you can maintain it, meaning they don't cancel it without living there, or maybe you have to once a year or once in a couple of years for a couple of days. And one of those, you can do that in Georgia, you can do that in Paraguay. And then having this residency permit means you have an extra document, like a KYC document you can use. Possibly it's then easy to get it in conjunction with a local address, which you could use for verification of things. And most of all, you have, like, if things go badly in the world, you have a place to go. You can claim, oh, I live in that other country. Look, like I have a residency permit. You have to let me go. Or if you actually want to go there, in most cases, they have to let you come in. So it's not as strong as having a citizenship. Even that has been violated in the past with Australia, for example. So there are no guarantees in life, I guess, but it's much stronger than just like imagine everybody wants to go to Paraguay if there is a nuclear war. Like quite an extreme example.
Hmm.
And then they will probably say no to most people, but you have residency permit, you will get in. So this is the kind of situation.
Nice. That's cool. I mean, yeah, and I like that you say that and you preface that a lot, right? There's no guarantees. You've said that a couple times, and I agree with you, right? And some people think, oh, well, that means it's just, maybe not going to work or whatever. But it's, one of the biggest things that I've learned. I mean, even when I had a construction company before, I just had enough confidence in my skills and my ability that I could
Mm,
problem solve on the fly, right? And so when you start to get
yes.
educated, whether that's doing the research yourself and spending all the time or working with somebody that can help and assist you,
Yeah.
you're going to get a wealth of knowledge working with you and understanding
Yes.
how things work. And if this situation comes up, then you've got to do this. If this comes up, then you do this. And eventually you get to where you're like, okay, right now there's so many people that are afraid. The internet doesn't help because there's so much bad press and media out there of what's going on. And I always say this, like, I'm not thinking that, what's happened, especially here in Canada in the last few years, is a good thing by any means, but it's also like I can't stay fixated on the doom and gloom. Like, I mean, I look
Mm,
outside, it's a beautiful day, well, there's no birds chirping because it's freezing, but like, it's you go outside, you go do the stuff. Like for the most part, life's pretty good, right? And then there's people that just get so negative and worry about everything. And I'm like, well, why don't you do something proactive so that you can have a little
yeah.
bit of a safe haven? Like you talked about gold and silver earlier. I mean, my desk is covered with silver bars that need to, be placed around and put. And that's a sense of freedom for me too, right? Different. And I do that for the banking purpose. Like I don't have another
Yeah.
bank account, right? I mean, I have multiple in Canada, but I mean, an account outside of the country, and it's like, I know that I can take those bars of silver to go get food or
Yeah.
fuel, whatever I need, right? And people go, "Oh, how do you do that?" I'm like, well, it takes a couple extra steps. I might have to go convert that bar of silver into cash, and then go take the cash to buy the gas. But it still gives me a sense of peace of mind that if something were to happen to a bank account, I'm still good, and I can sort it out. I don't have to panic where it's like, oh my God, I can't even pay for my food now or something, right? So, but this offshore account has been something I've been personally thinking about for a while.
It's a very good idea.
Yeah, yeah, especially when if you're doing anything that has eyes on you, you know.
Or even if you're not doing, like you never know. Like in general, like I think in most countries, most banks are like private banks, so they don't have any obligation to do business with you, basically. Like maybe in some countries, if you have like the local post bank or something like that, maybe they have a legal obligation to have an account with you if you want. But in most cases and in most countries, like they're just free to say like, oh, we don't do business with you. and we don't have to give you a reason, like. So that means, and I think that's totally fine from their side, but from your side, it means you need to have other options as well.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And have some other things. So so banking, citizenship slash residency, what other things do you help clients with?
Well, there's first let me quickly get back to this concept of no guarantees. So, like not having guarantees, it should not be like an excuse to be kind of frozen and say, oh, there's no point to do anything because there's no guarantees. In fact, if the solution to that is to diversify, to have options,
Hmm.
because like, okay, there's no guarantee that one option is going to work, but if you have options, you have multiple second residencies, you have multiple bank accounts in different countries, you have other ways to transact, then you're fine. And that brings us to this question. So I kind of have the idea of like a trifecta of maintaining your ability to transact.
Hmm.
So it's to first is what we talked about, to make sure that you have multiple bank accounts. Don't be one of those people who has just one bank, one payment card, and it's in the country where they live, where they are a citizen. Have some
Hmm.
other options. I'm not saying don't have bank account in Canada if you're Canadian, but have some extra bank accounts also in other countries. So that's one point, and ideally it should be a very different country. So there's the mindset of people from countries like Canada, US, UK. Like when they're looking at other countries, people from UK look at Australia or Canada. And then they say, oh, it's the same everywhere, so there's no point. Well, it's not the same everywhere. You just looked at identical countries, basically. So something
Right, right.
different.
And that's why you're
Yeah,
talking about something like
exactly,
Paraguay or other places, right?
exactly. Countries that are not in the same club, so to speak, that don't have the same kind of social and political agenda, same culture. Perhaps they have different language. They do things very differently. They are not going to collaborate with your government that easily. Maybe in some cases they want to collaborate, but they're just so incapable in those countries. So in some situations that can be an advantage when the government is incompetent. So it means that maybe that's not the best country for putting all your money there, but it's a nice backup country. So
Right.
that's the mindset. So then second is what you are doing, having some precious metals. And that's something I also kind of coach people in how to get into precious metals. How what if you need to travel with precious metals internationally? How to do that? What are the options for storage and different types of precious metals? How to transact with it? Something I would say that if there's some big situation with banking, economy, inflation, and the prices of precious metal skyrockets, because people are often afraid, like, well, what if I need to sell it? How am I going to do that? Well, if the price is going to skyrocket and it's going to be in high demand, I can assure you it will be easy to sell. like on every corner, there will be someone who will be very happy to buy it from you. And they will not make a big deal about like rules and paperworks, or like how much of percentage they're going to give you and this kind of stuff. They will be happy they can buy it from you.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's something to keep in mind. And then the third is using crypto, Bitcoin, and altcoins and so on. Which here to keep in mind is you should not see it only. Most people see it, like they look at the price and say, like, okay, it's an investment, it fluctuates. But you don't have to use Bitcoin as an investment. You could use it as a transaction vehicle. So someone pays you in Bitcoin and then you exchange it to something else. Perhaps you buy gold with it. Perhaps
Hmm.
you change it to dollars or Swiss francs or whatever. So then you don't really care how the price fluctuates, but you can use it to make transactions that don't depend on third parties like banks, that cannot be intercepted by governments. So this is the point. So this is like
Yeah.
the trifecta of maintaining your ability to transact.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds that's good because then you've got other ways of protecting yourself again and just having that
Yeah.
diversification. I mean, it's why it's why for a lot of people, right, they invest in different assets, right? And I always say we have this saying that it's like it's good to diversify, just don't diversify, right? And so that would be kind of the idea. It's like, your diversification, but if you're diversifying across the same level of assets, then you're not actually getting anything
Yeah.
good unless you're in the right asset. So that would be the same as like, okay, I've opened a foreign bank or I've got a foreign offshore, but it's the same, type of country. Like I'm doing it in Europe, or I'm getting
Yes.
as a Canadian, I'm getting an Australian bank account, and it's like, well, it makes me feel good, but it doesn't actually accomplish what I want because the exchange of information is so freely between the governments and the institutions. So it's like you want to go somewhere that's, often people want to do something, but then they look for the easiest solution, right?
Mm,
And the quickest, and that might not be the best. Often it's not, right?
Paper money's losing power, but real money, it's been trusted for 5,000 years. When banks print, inflation steals, and markets shake, gold and silver stay solid. Don't wait for headlines, own what's real. Visit learnwealthcycles.com and start building freedom with physical silver and gold today.
So
a lot of the other solutions are easy. You just have to know some basic tricks.
right.
Yeah, don't just diversify with assets. Diversify also geographically, politically.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, no, that I mean that makes a ton of sense. And you see a lot more of this is being talked about now online, right? Like especially
Mm,
when you get, some bigger political influential people on there. They're always talking about multiple passports, having different bank
mm,
accounts, LLCs, companies to, you know, sub sub companies so that you don't know, because that's another nice thing too, right? If you have a company account, even in Canada, right? Like if you've got issues with a company, but you have multiple companies, then those accounts still work, right? They
yeah.
can't shut them down the same way that they can if so that part's nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting opportunities. You also mentioned, like communication between countries. This is a big point as well. So there is this thing called common reporting standards. Most countries nowadays, almost all of them are officially part of it. This is the idea of sharing information on you with tax authorities. So officially, most countries are part of it, but usually they're part of it kind of that they're willing to give information upon request, but not every country sends it automatically. There's some countries who are part of it because they were kind of diplomatically pushed or forced into it, but they don't really want to, so they find ways around it. Like sometimes in some countries, you open an account and they ask you this form, where are you a tax resident in the U.S. And the options are no and no. So there's some cases like this. Uh, but even sometimes even countries like Belgium, where you would think they would collaborate, they don't in most cases. Like they really need to get a very strong request. And one most notable example is the US doesn't collaborate at all with this. So they demand that everybody kind of sends them stuff on their citizens from other countries, and most countries comply with that, but they don't send stuff to anyone else, pretty much. So actually having business registered and do banking in the US, if you are not a US citizen and you don't live in the US, is very, very private because they're not going to send anything to anybody. And then, like, okay, if you have private clients, they don't really care usually where your business is registered. But
hmm
if you're doing some consulting for like NGOs, government organizations, and so on, and you say like, oh, I have I'm gonna invoice you from my business in the Caribbean or something like that, they're gonna say no, this is not. You're gonna try to do some shady stuff. And if you say, "Oh, I have LLC in the US," okay, that's fine, that's trustworthy. But the the one in the Caribbean has to send to your tax office the reports, but the one in the US isn't going to send anything. So it's really funny how it works. But
Hmm.
this is something like most people would not be able to understand or know about if you're not in this business.
Right. Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. I like that. And more more ways to do that. So walk me a little bit through how so somebody contacts you. How do they get a hold of you?
So I have an email, and there's a form also on my website. I have a website, Andrew, and I'm posting some articles there. Like useful advice. There's also a link to my YouTube and Rumble profiles where I post some videos, cover different interesting topics, give advice on some basic ideas like what we discussed, and there is a contact form there as well.
Okay. And then so then as
Of
a
course,
client,
people can connect also on LinkedIn with me and write to me there. So I'm basically everywhere. You can find me as Andrew Icedale.
right? And that's just Icedale,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
like Icedale,
I see. Yeah, yeah.
Icedale.
And so then, a consulting with you depends on how elaborate somebody wants to be, all that kind of stuff. But then somebody comes in, they just, you have a first meeting with them, and you just get some preliminary ideas about who they are. Well, like walk me through this a little bit more, so that somebody basically speak to the audience, so that if they're like, "Hey, that's me," then they know they can reach out to you.
So I think first we discuss, or they can describe their situation. What is the problem they are trying to solve, or what is the opportunity they are chasing. Maybe that's a better way to think. What is kind of the situation, what they're trying to overcome. Because often some is a situation where people say like, okay, this is all nice, but I cannot leave my country. I think this is only for people who are going to move somewhere else. And I cannot leave my country because I want to live close to my grandma, or something like that. But there's a lot of solutions you can do that I can help with while staying in your country. There's a lot we can do, like coaching you how to use crypto to transact. We can get into precious metals. We can open offshore bank accounts. You can perhaps even the work you're doing for your employee, you can change to a business to business contract, and we can register that offshore. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of things we can do. And then maybe there's someone else who wants to leave the country, but they have kids and they want good education for them. And we look at their situation, the kind of climate they want, and we find the right country for them.
Nice. Yeah. And then where,
Start with understanding the situation.
right. That's actually a good idea, because you might never leave, but if you had to leave and you knew where you wanted to end up
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff, then that can start to be set up so that you're like, hey, listen, like, we've got a residency here, and now we
Mm,
can go there, and you're not scrambling down the road just trying to go anywhere to get out of, whatever's going on, right? So, I mean,
that's the point.
yeah.
Having a backup plan, that's something we can create as well. And having a residency permit that you don't need to live there to maintain, that can be part of the backup plan. And like during COVID, people were talking about that you need to be, if something happens, like within 3 days, you need to be somewhere else. Not that in 3 days you have researched where you're going to go and start packing your packs, but in 3 days you're already there. So like that should be the maximum time scale. So like people can ask themselves, if something would happen now, can I be somewhere else in 3 days? Do I know where to go? What would I take with me? Can I do it physically? So this kind of points, and this is something we can help them prepare as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think most people would even have a inkling of why they would want to like leave somewhere so quickly, right? Like most people's,
Yeah,
idea of why that would be is like uh they're just having a hard time and they're like, I need to get out of here, but they don't really realize like this could be serious and then how they do it. Then you got airplanes and everything else that you got to get involved in or how you get over the border depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Um,
Here, this is something that depends, of course, a lot on how much money person has. The more money you have, the more easy it is, the more possibilities you have. You can just maybe rent a private plane. Perhaps if you have the skills, you could fly it yourself. So, usually if people have a lot of money, they don't need to be very flexible. They don't need a lot of help because they can just, to some extent, throw money at the problem. But ironically, the less money you have, the more you need something like this. So, because sometimes people think this kind of services is suitable for someone who has like millions of dollars or hundreds of millions, because they're paying way too much tax, and that's the reason why they're going abroad. But actually, nowadays it's easier than ever to do a lot of these things that I talk about if you don't have any special wealth. Like, of course, you may need some amount of money. It does cost some money to travel somewhere to register, for a residency permit. But this is the kind of budget we're talking about.
mhm. Yeah, that's nice. So what can you even give me a base idea of what somebody would be expected to pay to hire you as a consultant, and then what
Mm.
some relatively average costing for setting some of these things up, just so people have an idea.
So the basic consulting cost is quite modest. So the hourly rate, I fix it with the price of gold. So this way, I don't have to adjust the rates with inflation, and it also teaches the client on the value of money, on inflation, on gold being real money. So at the moment, my hourly rate is equal to 1/10 ounce of gold.
Okay,
So
that's a
if
cool
people
way.
listen to this later, we don't have to give a dollar value, and when people listen to this later, they can look up the value.
Yeah.
I think it's something about over $400 right now.
Mhm.
So, and of course, if they work with me long term, if it's a more long term collaboration, then it can be significantly less in terms of per time. It can be some flat rate. We can discuss some subscription. Here, it really depends about what they want, what are their needs, and their situation, and then I can suggest something.
Yeah, I love
And
that's especially in my world, but that's neat. Like actually,
yeah,
basing your fee off of one tenth of an ounce of gold. I'm like, I should talk to our office. We have dollar value fees, but it's funny because yeah, as you look back at the
yeah,
year, it's like, like we should be charging that like some of the fees. It's like, yeah, it's 3 ounces of silver, whatever.
yeah.
That'd be a great idea. Yeah. I like that actually a lot.
Yeah, so this is how it works, and this is kind of for the coaching consulting in general. And then when we talk about specific solutions, there might be cost associated with that. So perhaps based on my coaching, they decide to travel to Georgia and open a bank account themselves, or whatever cost they might be. If they are from Europe, that might be, or from Dubai, it's both like a few hours flight. Then that could be a good idea to travel there. If they're from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, then maybe it's better to open it remotely, and that will cost something like 600-700 bucks to do it remotely. And if, for example, somebody wants a residence permit in Paraguay, they have to travel there at least once. So whatever the costs of that are, plus the process itself is going to be between about $500 and $2,000. Depends exactly how we do it. But
Nice. I
like
mean,
the flights to Paraguay from anywhere are going to be cheap. So we're talking about a few thousands in that case. But
mhm,
and then you might have to go there again after a couple of years to renew it. But then you might be able to get a 10-year permit.
right.
So it's
Yeah. I mean,
That's the cost.
that's pretty reasonable for additional peace of mind. I mean, realistically, we're talking like 5 to 10 grand for a basic setup, something like that, and then you can if you're flying, all that stuff. So it's kind of yeah, that adds a lot of peace of mind. And I'm assuming and that's another thing. So if it was a family, right? Um, as the father or whatever husband, or a wife, whatever, could one of those family members make it and go and then get a lot of stuff set up for the other family members, or does the whole family need to travel to set up
Mm.
something? And I know it's a uh consulting or like a thing, but I'm just talking in general terms,
Yeah, for residency permits, this is something that you will each family member will have to go through the process.
Hmm.
But in a lot of countries, the residency permits work like if you have a residency permit and you're living there and you want to bring a family member in, there might be some simplified procedure, but they still have to do the process. It's not automatic. With citizenship, sometimes it can be significantly simplified. So if you have a citizenship somewhere, you might be able, depending on the level of family connection, they might be eligible to a citizenship where you are otherwise not, where you otherwise wouldn't be eligible. And with the citizenship per investment programs, depending on the country, some of the Caribbean countries, uh, they are a bit more expensive. Like instead of maybe 100K, it's, for example, 250K. But then it can be like if you're one or the whole family, it could be almost the same amount. So for a bigger family, some of those, then it could be useful to look, if you're going for the citizenship by investment, it could be useful to look at the specific countries if they offer like a family package.
Okay. Yeah. And that again, that's nice. And then you have a better idea when people are, excuse me,
Yeah.
talking to you, filling it out, where are we going to end up, that kind of stuff. That
Something
makes
worth mentioning related to this somewhat is also, like it's related to this and assets as well. So real estate, like it's quite a big topic for a lot of people. People see it's very overpriced and uncertain in many Western countries. And of course, it's in some ways there's political risk. Also, there's high taxes associated with that. If you're doing it in the West, if you want to rent it out, there's a lot of regulation. So it's a very good idea to buy real estate abroad. And here is something that people don't think about that can be a very significant consideration is if you buy real estate in certain countries and it qualifies some criteria, like the value of the real estate and maybe some other factors, it can result in simplified procedure for residency or even citizenship sometimes. So that can
right.
be significant consideration, and it can also help establish tax residence in some country. So that can be part of your global tax plan as well to buy resident real estate in a certain country.
Yeah, like I know in the United States, if you own a business, you can get citizenship a lot quicker.
Yeah,
If you own a business in the US, I have some friends that have opened up offices and different businesses in the United
yeah,
States. Just bought them because it's accelerated their ability to not get permanent residency, but to get, you know, um, temporary residency or whatever, and start to work through that
mm,
process. But it was actually they're like you could pay the money, and I think it's 5 million bucks to get a US citizenship. But then if you have a business and do whatever, it's a lot less. So he's like, well, why would I spend this money where it's gone? I might as well invest this money into a business, and then the business is earning
yeah,
money.
yeah.
They're still going to give it to me, which makes sense. I mean, you're stimulating the economy, so it's like they're going to be happy
There
with it.
are many countries that have programs like this as well. So
Yeah.
that if usually like it has to be a business of certain size. Like sometimes they talk about number of employees you need to
Mhm.
have or turnover and so on. But there's even EU countries that can give you residency or even citizenship. but it's usually like we're talking about high net worth individuals in this case because
Yeah.
it's quite significant, but it's possible. And there's a lot of countries outside of the Western world that do it as well. And then it's sometimes much less. So it's usually called the golden visa programs and sometimes even citizenship.
Okay, that's good to know. I like to ask a lot of my guests, and the people that I've interviewed before have been, kind of in different businesses. But what's one of your favorite books, Andrew?
I have a lot of favorite books. You mean like novels? I see a lot of
Uh,
nice novels, including classics, on your shelf, by the way. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Give me one of your favorite like books for your mind for development. Like, and I don't mean it doesn't have to be
yeah,
self-development, but just like, something that you learn from or whatever.
for development, there's a few nice books. From the top of my mind, The Seven Habits comes to my
Mm,
mind. So
mhm.
that's a nice one. There's a few other ones as well. It's usually with those kind of books, like I don't read them from cover to cover immediately, but use them as a lookup thing. Also, a very nice book is The 48 Laws of Power.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
it's also a very nice book. So I think books like this I like for development.
Nice. Cool. So, but that 48 Laws of Power, I read that years ago. It's a really good book for recognizing when things are happening to you, when
Mm.
you're doing them, that kind of stuff. So that's a really good
It's one,
reminder,
one of those books that also look very nice on the bookshelf.
right? Yeah. Yeah, I actually don't
I
think
also
I have it.
also
It's
read
hard.
the. Have you read The Prince?
No.
This is by Machiavelli.
Okay.
This is kind of like because 48 Laws of Power. This is like the modern world version of that. But the Machiavelli's book is still relevant. It was an Italian author during the Renaissance, and it was kind of like an essay he wrote for a prince, like as a gift. And it was kind of like insights both from his story and from his travels with at various courts. Like it was basically the first kind of laws of powers book, and he was describing political situations. And if you look at history, like what happened during various empires and regimes, is very accurate what he describes there, and kind of the reasons for what works and what doesn't.
That's the one thing why I do like to read some of these older books is because it's like history repeats itself and stuff's edited
Mm.
and changed, to audit like yeah, we say modern version, but then sometimes they take out the real nuts and bolts of books to like almost hide some truths, right? That might help you even more. So that's good. So I'll have to look for that book and read it.
Yeah, it's quite a short book. It's more like an essay, but
Hmm. Yeah.
it's like an essay with more than 100 pages. But it's a small book. I think you can get it from the Penguin Classics, so it should be
Okay.
easy to get.
Yeah. Nice.
Sometimes it's titled in the like original Italian title, like Il Prince. So, but it's sometimes the Prince. So
Cool. Yeah, I'll look at it. I mean, I'm sure if you type in Prince and Machiavelli, it'll come up. So it's
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
nice. Well, that's cool. Andrew, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing some information and knowledge with my audience. I hope they can find you. We'll tag your site and stuff in the show
Yeah,
notes
great.
so people can find you. I know I follow you on LinkedIn. You post a lot of good stuff. So just under your name, Andrew Icedale on LinkedIn, so people can find you there. And yeah, do you have any closing words for everybody?
Keep diversifying.
Nice. Thanks again for coming on the show, man, and have a really awesome day.
Thank you. You too. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. When a system shakes, paper wealth disappears overnight. But real wealth, it doesn't flinch. Gold and silver have outlasted every currency ever printed. The question isn't if this next storm comes, it's what will you do when it does. Visit learnwealthcycles.com. You too can own what's real.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for season 1 of the Spicer Life podcast. We'll be back in a few weeks at the start of March for season 2.